I'm eating really healthy and not losing weight. Today I am going to talk about the 3 biggest barriers to weight loss, and some of them may or may not be something that you would consider, and some are going to ruffle some feathers. So firstly, I want to point out, as much as I love getting all of the DMs that my content is very helpful and that you really enjoy it, I just want to point out that you will be doing me a massive favor if you find my content helpful, if you actually share it with people, because chances are if you found it helpful, someone else is going to find it helpful. I want to get something out of the way here that a lot of people have a misconception about. People see diet and the word diet as like this dirty word that we're not allowed to say anymore because of diet culture, okay? But originally the word diet actually just meant the way we're eating. So there's this huge negative connotation with the word diet, and we hear diet and we instantly think low calorie, no food, no nice food, no drink, no social life, no nothing, right? But actually the word diet originally just meant like the foods we're eating, like what we're actually consuming, okay? So let's step a little bit away from that idea of flinching every time we hear the word diet. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is the 3 biggest barriers I see towards weight loss, and they are adherence, obviously, that one's kind of a little bit self-explanatory, patience, and they quit. People quit. And I talked about this a lot in a goal setting workshop I did recently, where it was like, literally the only way people fail at something is they give up. And that's true. The only way you will fail at anything in this life is if you give up. If you keep trying, you will eventually get there. But people give up. Now, something I want you to consider is, we are the product of all of our decisions up to now, which means where we are at, in this instance, we're talking about body composition, where we are at right now is the product of all the decisions we've made up to now. And not all the decisions you made in the last week, not even in the last month. I'm talking, how old are you? You are the product of all of the decisions you have made up to now. Now, whether that is a place you are proud of or not proud of, mentally or physically, you need to take ownership of the fact that you are where you are because of the decisions you have made. That can be really frustrating for some people, but equally it can and should be really empowering, because you have the control to take things into your own hand here and make some better decisions. So with regards to body composition, you are the product of all of the decisions you've made up to now. Now, here is where patience comes in, right? Because people start a 6-week program, or they start a weight loss journey, and they get frustrated because maybe they don't see a big difference week to week. Now, I'm going to let you in on a big secret here. If you've signed up to someone who has given you ridiculously low calories, they have you training every single day, you are miserable, you're not allowed to drink, you're not allowed to socialize, you're not allowed to go out for meals, are you going to see results really, really quickly? Yes. Are you going to see incredible results in 6 weeks? Yes. Is that sustainable? No. Have you done it before? Yes. Did it work? Yes, for the 6 weeks, but once the 6 weeks was over and you were praying for the 6 weeks to be over, did you pile all the weight back on and then potentially more? Yes. Why? Because it's not sustainable. If something is not sustainable, in my opinion, it didn't work. So what do I do with my clients, and what do good coaches do? They put you in a slight calorie deficit. If you do not understand what a calorie deficit is and you do not know what energy balance is, listen to my episode on fat loss. Fat Loss 101. If you've ever gained weight, if you've ever lost weight, if you've ever maintained weight, you will understand why if you listen to that podcast. So we like to put our clients in a moderate calorie deficit, usually between 20 and 30%, because it's sustainable, okay? And we have you training an acceptable amount for your lifestyle. So maybe for some people that's 3 times a week. Maybe for some people that's 4 times a week. We try and increase your step count a little bit, okay? We try and get you to eat more protein, more fruit and veg, be more active in your everyday life, make more empowered choices. Now, does that mean that sometimes the results might be a little bit slower? Yes, but are they sustainable, and are you still living your life while you're doing it? Yes, and that is the difference, because if it is not sustainable, you're not going to stick to it. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk about a few things that successful dieters do and why every single person on this planet, whether it's a goal you want to achieve, whether it's a weight loss journey, whatever it is, needs more patience. You didn't get to where you are overnight. You're not going to get to where you want to go overnight either. You have to be consistent and you have to be patient. You have to adhere to things. Even following like an 80-20 principle with regards to things is usually a good flexible approach. So the first thing successful dieters do is they do not label food good and bad. They do not have dichotomous thinking. So I have a lettuce head here, okay? And I have a bag of Tangfastics here. And people are like, lettuce good, Tangfastics bad, bread bad, salad good, all of these things. No. Get rid of that. Stop. There is no good and bad food. Food does not have a moral compass. There is more nutrient dense food, but by labeling food good or bad, you are doing yourself a massive injustice. And actually by having a more flexible approach to your dieting, you are more inclined to be more successful. Does that mean living off McDonald's and fast food and sweets and chocolate and crisps? No, because you're going to feel like a bag of dicks if you do that. But by incorporating the food you like into a lifestyle and food choices that involve more protein, more fruit and vegetables, whole meal, whole grain, wherever possible, increasing your fiber intake, but then having a bar of chocolate every day if you want a bar of chocolate. That flexibility is the difference between you actually being able to stick to something or you fucking the baby out with the bathwater. Every time you have a bar of chocolate, you have to have 7 bars of chocolate. It's that all or nothing mentality. No, get rid of that. The next thing successful dieters do, they don't eat to regulate mood. So we all have our own self-soothing practices, okay? For some people, that's food. For some people, it's drink. For some people, it's smoking. For some people, it's exercise, okay? We all have ways that we like to deal with our emotions, but by using these external things to soothe and regulate emotions, we're actually doing ourselves a disservice in the long run, because by not actually feeling the feelings and getting to the root of the problem, you are putting a plaster over a broken leg. So that's another one. I'm not going to get too into this one, but if you are someone who finds they sway towards emotional eating, just not emotional eating is not solving the problem. You need to get to the root of the problem. Why are you emotionally eating? Why are you emotionally exercising? Why are you self-soothing with different things that are outside of you? You need to learn self-soothing practices that are actually going to make you feel better and that you can do yourself. So successful dieters also have a better body image. And what I mean about that is that doesn't mean they go around and they look at themselves every day and they're like, I look fab every day. Everyone goes through periods throughout their cycle where body image can be a little bit distorted. But overall, they focus more on what their bodies can do as opposed to what their bodies just look like, okay? So they're really, really hyper focused on the fact like, wow, I'm really grateful that my body's actually able to do X, Y, and Z, as opposed to I'm just completely hyper focused on how it looks. So that is a really important component to this as well. Lastly, they perceive the benefits actually outweigh the costs. So what I mean by this is like people actually see the benefits of what they're doing. For example, like just because I don't eat a lot of takeaways, it's not because I don't like them. It's that I feel like a bag of shit after I eat them. And when I'm eating shit, I feel like shit. When I'm not exercising, I feel like shit. So for me, the benefits of actually looking after myself and eating good food and being active completely outweighs the benefits of actually not doing it. I hate feeling like shit. So therefore you have a very, very strong motivator as to why you are doing this as well. Right, so what do successful dieters actually do? They are usually more physically active. So this is overall, they're just more active. And what this actually does is it starts kind of a chain reaction of things. When you start becoming more physically active, subconsciously, you're probably going to start paying a little bit more attention to the food you are consuming. And then it's kind of cyclical. You train, you feel better. You're more active, you feel better. You eat better food, you make better choices, and then you feel better. And then you have more energy, and then you're more active, and so on and so forth. And that is an amazing motivator, is actually just feeling good. The next thing they do is, as I said, they probably eat fewer takeaways, mainly because they don't want to feel like a bag of dicks eating Chinese 5 nights a week. Also, I think we can all attest to the fact that most takeaways are quite high in calories, so it makes sense then that limiting the amount of takeaways you are having a week, and I'm not saying completely get rid of them, that's not what we're saying, but limiting the amount of takeaways you are having a week is obviously going to help as well. To be honest, and this is one that people are a bit on the fence about, but successful dieters actually have quite a low food variety. So what I mean about this is they usually have a handful of things that they go to. Like me personally, especially when I'm dieting, I've done a video on this before. If you don't like to meal prep, I have 3 or 4 breakfast options that I go to all the time, 3 lunch options that I go to all the time, and dinner I might have 5 or 6, right? But equally, I don't stray too much from them during the week. It takes away the decision fatigue that I need to be eating something new all the time, but also it just allows you, whether you're tracking calories or not tracking calories, you know roughly what you're eating, the portion sizes you're eating, and what gets measured gets managed, so you actually know whether this is working or not. But if you're someone who's trying to have a different breakfast every day, a different lunch every day, a different dinner every day, like, you're going to get extremely fatigued trying to do all these new recipes, and of course you're going to give up because it's draining, and that's just something you need to think about every single day. What am I having for breakfast? How many calories is in that? Blah, 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 blah. Sit down on a Sunday, get MyFitnessPal out, and actually just say to yourself, right, here's a couple of breakfast options. I know roughly all these breakfast options have about 400 or 500 calories. They all have about 30 grams of protein. Bang, I can go between any one of them during the week. Bob's your uncle, it's done. The next, do the same with lunch, do the same with dinner, and write them down even and put them on your fridge and go between them options during the week. And if you're someone who's very, very busy, the work is done for you. You don't have to think, you just pick which one you want on those days. So what actually fucks with people dieting then? As I said, adherence is going to be number one. Portion distortion is something that often happens as well. Like, people, when they start out, they're meticulously tracking everything, and they're like, okay, I need to track that, and they're tracking the milk in their tea and everything, and then after a while they're not really arse, and they're just like, I roughly know what that is. And that's not to say you have to become obsessed with calorie tracking. That's just saying sometimes portion distortion happens the longer you're doing this, and you need to be honest with yourself and be like, well, you know what, that probably wasn't 100 grams of pasta, that was probably 150 grams. But just being honest with yourself with portion sizes. Another thing that happens, and I'm not going to go too far into this because this is the thing that I could do a whole video on, and it's something called metabolic adaptation, which is where you hear people saying, oh my God, my metabolism is fucked, my metabolism slowed down, blah, 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 blah. No, didn't. Right. What happens when you drop a lot of body fat? When you drop body fat, your energy requirements change. So therefore, if I have someone who is 100 kilos and I have someone who is 50 kilos, okay, and they both walk 100 meters, the person who is 100 kilos requires more energy to carry out the activity than the person who is 50 kilos. And thus, what is it? Calories, energy. If that person requires less energy to carry out the tasks, therefore their energy requirements change. So no, their metabolism didn't slow down, their energy requirements changed. So the last thing I'm going to finish on here, and usually what I see happen to people, and especially if they're using MyFitnessPal and they don't have a coach, is they're eating back the calories they're burning, okay? And what I mean by that is they link their watch and stuff to MyFitnessPal, and then they're thinking they're in a calorie deficit, but then the watch is adding more calories on because it tells you you've done this amount of steps, and you're actually eating back your calorie deficit. So I always say to my clients, activity than the person who is 50 kilos, and thus, what is it? Calories, energy. If that person requires less energy to carry out the tasks, therefore their energy requirements change. So no, their metabolism didn't slow down, their energy requirements changed. So the last thing I'm going to finish on here, and usually what I see happen to people, and especially if they're using MyFitnessPal and they don't have a coach, is they're eating back the calories they're burning, okay? And what I mean by that is they link their watch and stuff to MyFitnessPal, and then they're thinking they're in a calorie deficit, but then the watch is adding more calories on because it tells you you've done this amount of steps, and you're actually eating back your calorie deficit. So I always say to my clients, once I have calculated their calories for them, make sure MyFitnessPal is not linked to your watch, or you are eating back your calories and thus negating your calorie deficit. So stop relying on the calories burnt on your watch to tell you anything. The only thing you should be following your watch for is, it's a good guide week on week as to whether you need to move a little bit more, okay? It's also a good step counter. If you did 70,000 steps last week, can you do 70 5,000 this week, okay? Things like that, having little goals like that, they're great. But don't use your watch to tell you the calories that you're burning, because they're not accurate at all, okay? So stop eating back your calories from your watch. So with that in mind, hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, give it a share. And if there's any other content you would like to see or like me to answer about, let me know.